What is going on, guys, man? It's your guy Zuko here today, and today we are going to be talking about everything wrong with NBA 2K25. I have a lot here to show you guys. I've been playing this game. I probably put over $400 into this game. Let's get started straight into this video. And right in our face, we have one of the first things wrong with NBA 2K25. The moment you load up the game, if you were clicking your A button twice, if I click my A button once, boom, brings me to a purchase screen. Now let's say I back out of this, right? And I want to click my A button again. Get VC. I click my A button once. I click my A button one more time. You have to go through this every single time you load up the game. This is actually insane for a game. The corporate greed is insane. But we're not here to talk about that. That's just one of the first things because it's kind of comical. But let's talk about 2K first. So 2K is a monopoly. It's the best game because it's the only game, right? So we're going to compare 2K to its previous game because that's all we can compare it to see if 2K25 is a better product than 2K24. Throughout the entirety of this video, we are going to be comparing 2K25 gameplay to 2K24. Keep this in mind with everything I'm going to be showing you guys here today. So first off, let's start off with the first sort of general consensus that I have after putting over 400 plus hours into this game. This is not a competitive game at all. It's a casual game. It's all based off of RNG. There's no value in you actually being good in the game versus you actually being bad in the game. If you just know what to do, you can actually perform just as good as someone who is actually really good at 2K. If we look here at the screen, you can see that I have made over 6 builds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of these builds are all God tier. Every single one of them I made with a specific purpose to do exactly what I want them to do. And I am one of the best builders that has ever touched 2K because I'm a smart human being. And all of these builds are all God tier. Every single one of them are really good. So this is not just coming from the perspective of a PG, a center, a back end, a lock, or anything. I've played every single role in 2K25 that there is to play. I played every single mode except my team. I played every single version of my career modes, whether it's Pro Am, Park, Reg, Proving Ground. I played everything, and I'm here to bring you guys everything that is a problem. So, with that being said, let's talk about my career. This is a game that is completely based off of VC. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am not with a lot of the community whenever they talk about the VC issues because at the end of the day, it is optional. And I'm here to tell everyone there was like over 10 VC methods at the beginning of the game that if you just simply typed in VC method 2K25 the moment the game launched, you were able to grind over like 300k VC in like 2 hours. And no one got banned. I know because my friends did it. Because it was a VC method, not a VC glitch, not a VC exploit. And even still in the game now, you can grind over 600,000 VC if you put at least 12 hours, which is about how much time you would spend playing, right? If you're a really big sweat or if you're a really big Perim player. And if you want to, let's say, put 6 hours, you can get you a good 200k VC just by playing the game. 2K actually throws so much VC at you, so I have to give them credit for it. But the community is actually so used to always being programmed to buy VC that they actually just always do. And even if they do see a VC glitch that takes a little bit of time, they'd rather open the wallet up than actually grind the VC method. Even if 2K throws so much VC at you, it's possible. You can get a completely maxed out build this year much faster than you could last year. If you were to sit in this year and actually go ahead and yourself and say, I want to go from 60 to 99, you'd be able to do that in legit 2 days of playing the game. So I can't make that argument. I have to give 2K their credit. They are throwing a lot of VC at us in this game. There's so many events, there's so many modes, there's so many things. That's always room for us to get 10K, 5K, 2.5K, 1.5K, 25K. There's so 15K here and there, especially if you're playing events. And if you're just playing the game, if you're just playing the game a lot, you can get up to 1,000, 1,200, 2,000, especially if you're playing Proving Grounds. There's so much VC in this game. If you are playing the game like you want to, you can actively get up to 15 bills easily this year if you play this game throughout. Now let's talk about gameplay, because at the end of the day, that is what this game is all about. Gameplay. Let's talk about the first thing, which is layups. Layups are the core of basketball. It's the first thing that you learn how to do whenever you're learning to play basketball. I remember we all have videos, or we all have memories of us picking the ball up for the first time, learning how to dribble with it, and the first thing your coach or whoever you were messing around with said, see if you can make a layup, throw it against the backboard with your dominant hand, and then try it with your non-dominant hand, and you learn how to do the most consistent, the easiest bucket in the game of basketball. The most high percentage bucket that you can get in the game of basketball, a layup. And then 2K25, they are the worst percentage bucket in the game. That makes no sense. You cannot green contested layups with skill shot profiles consistently. It's all RNG. The only usage for high risk or even normal risk would be for you to actually be able to green a layup with a lowered layup rating. It does nothing for you whenever it comes to hitting contestants because you cannot make them. I know, because I have a 97 driving layup build where I have literally tested the values of being on high risk, normal, low risk, and real player percentage, and I could feel no difference in my ability to be able to make contested layups, whether it was light pressure, tight, or very tight, from high all the way to low. I noticed the strongest change whenever I was on low risk rather than normal or high. And then I was like, well, if low risk feels the best, then let's just try real player percentage. And then voila, I'm making contested layups at the yen. Now, that makes no sense. If real player percentage, which is the casuals sort of mode, right? That's basically you not having to time at all, you not having to use skill, is more consistent at even greening contested layups. How does that make sense? And then to make it even worse, real player percentage misses opens with no one around because it is an RNG mode. So you can miss an open layup in your real player percentage, but make more contestants than the people who are using skill player role. And they can't make nearly as much contested stuff as you can make, which makes, in my opinion, no sense whatsoever. In 2K24, that was the first year where layups were actually as strong as dunks were. Every single year for 2K, we can all agree that layups have always been weaker than dunks. We all know that one person who makes the build with a 99 layup and no dunk, and be like, you just messed up your build. You need to have, and it's because there are so many ways to affect the layup, to block a layup, because of the physics of a layup and the way that the ball flights through it. It's just easier to block, right? And it's easier to contest. It's easier to get like people sent there, and it's easier to take you out the animation or have your animation be affected by someone else's animation, making it a worse mechanic, which in my opinion is a horrible way to develop a game, because layups are the most consistent bucket to go in. Every single 2K that has ever been a 2K, that has always been true, except 2K24, where they actually had a much bigger sort of presence, because you put people in animations. You made it a better mechanic. You made it to where you had animations where if they were riding your hip, the animation that everyone complained about, you made it to where that animation was completely used to punish people who got beat, making layups good, because you put people in animations like dunks do, or you made it to where they can't take you out of your layup animation like dunks do, to where it's a consistent way to score, making them good. On top of the fact that you can use skill layups, you can use, your hop jumpers, your euros, your floaters, and all, making them actually effective. And the moment that layups were good in 1 year, you guys nerded them to the ground. You guys neutered them. So in 2K24, you could green a layup with a 25 rating, but in 2K25, a 75 can miss wide open layups on real player percentage. On top of that, it just feels 2 times worse and watered down from 2K24. The first year where layups were actually able to compete with dunks. So you made something good and then you made it worse. And then you made it worse than it even was in 2K23, which makes no sense. On top of that, if that wasn't enough to make layups really, really bad for you, you can have a clear lane and someone can get a contest out of nowhere before and after the patch is even worse now, where you get a contest because they were there at the gather and not at the release of the layup. And if they weren't there at the gather, they can jump at the release of the layup and make you miss with skill timing every single time, unless you're playing on real player percentage and you have a chance of making that. You can get a layup stolen as well at the gather 3 to 4 feet behind you by them clicking their X button. They'll speed boost and zoom to the animation's lock distance or range, or set value where it needs to trigger. It'll boost them to that spot in order to actually make the animation trigger because they have a rating. This is just bad game design. It really is. It needs to require positioning. It needs to require skill. It needs to require IQ or preparation, like a certain hand for which hand they can go up with and not just X button clicking. It has to have some sort of skill. If you're going to make it have that kind of range, you have to be able to do like Right Stick Ripper from 2K24 and know which hand it's in and use the correct angle in order to get this, not just click your X button and zoom 3 to 4 feet behind them and get a steal. That makes no sense. That's not very skillful. But that's enough about layups. There's much more I could have said about that. Let's move on to the next thing. Dunks. The most easy and the most efficient way in this game to score since the beginning of, I believe, maybe 2K15, 2K14. Dunks were the easiest way to score in this game because they are animation based scoring, and animations dominate NBA 2K25, and they've dominated NBA 2K since the beginning of it becoming an animation based game. The dunk meter and the skill dunk logic in 2K24 was very consistent because of the fact that if you got a direct line of sight of the ball to the rim, you were able to dunk the ball. Or if nothing was right in the middle, you were able to dunk the ball. If they were right in your hip, you were able to dunk the ball. And it didn't matter who came after that, you were able to dunk the ball, making it consistent, using the skill version of dunking in NBA 2K24 work. So many people who did not actually master the dunk logic behind skill dunks and didn't master actually getting open and learning dribble moves to create these angles to where you can do it, thought that the mechanic was bad because they did not adapt. But for the people that did adapt, it was a way for us to make dunks require skill and give us a skill gap where it was effective. Comparing that to 2K23, where all you had to do was RTX, get you a 99 driving dunk, and get you learn how to angle up to the right or up to the left for your certain hand that you want to dunk with, and then you were able to get that exact same output. So they made it to where, okay, for 2K24, we're going to go ahead and say, we're going to give you this mechanic where you can skill dunk and learn these angles and always get you a contact dunk animation, and you still have to green it. And if you don't do it within the logic of parameter that we set, you won't ever be able to get that dunk. It's going to give you a very early or very late, which means there are checks and balances to this. And on top of that, you just had to be there at the gather. For all the people that complained about the dunk meter logic for 2K24, all you had to do was be there at the gather and they couldn't dunk it at all. And a lot of people thought that it was bad because of that logic, which means you had to actually have skill. You actually had to know it was a knowledge check mechanic. It was perfectly balanced. Talking about that, now talking about the new dunk meter logic in NBA 2K25, it is a triple negative. What does that mean? That means you can get, well, let's go ahead and start off with what Mike Wang said. Mike Wang said that dunking works a lot like layups now. And that is just not true at all. But in a way, it low-key kind of is, because layups are a triple negative as well. They're both really bad. Layups are a triple negative because if they are there at the gather, you can get a light pressure. If they're there at the release, you can get another contest. If they simply, you time it wrong, you can still miss a layup that was wide open, because the perimeter, if you're using any of the skill ratings, whether it's low, high, or normal, you can mistime the layup and still miss it, even though it's right there, right? So it's a triple negative mechanic, right? Now, skill dunking is another triple negative mechanic. So layups are a triple negative, and now skill dunks are. Let's explain how. If someone is there at the gather, like how they were for 2K24, you will never be able to green that dunk, right? And then at the same time, if they're there late, or if they're able to get in a position to jump or like get their body in that red before then, they're still able to take you out of that dunk, or actually give it to where you don't have a green window anymore. On top of this, it's the only rating, unlike layups, where timing is going to make it to where you're going to get a very late or very early, where you're completely unable to dunk at all. So it actually doesn't work like layups at all, like Mike Wang said, because with layups, if you got a light pressure, or if you got an animation that wasn't going to be an open one, you can still get a slightly late, you can still get a slightly early, so that way you can know, okay, well, at least I got close, maybe I can time that perfect next time. No, in dunks, you're just going to get a very late or a very early, which means there's no chance at all for you to green it, making it low-key a 4 negative, a quadruple negative. That's really, really bad. To the point to where you can't even use skill dunks anymore in 2K25. The skill mechanic is completely useless. It's worse than the regular dunking of RTX, or the angle dunks of right stick up or right stick upwards to the left, right stick upwards to the right. That's what I mean by the angle dunks, because this is basically you determining which hand is going to dunk the ball. It's still going to be an animation where you don't have to actually time anything. You just get the animation. If the casual version of dunking is stronger and more consistent than the skill version, what's the purpose of even having the skill version in the game? There's no point. Every competitive player has learned that if you want to actually go ahead and dunk the ball more consistently now, you can apply the same dunk meter logic that I talk about in my video and use that for posterizer without using the skill dunk, and it would be 10 times stronger than if you were using the actual right stick up, right stick down, the skill meter dunk. Which means the logic in my video, it's even stronger if you look at not actually using the skill dunk version. That makes no sense. And the fact that it's like that for dunks and layups, that's a really, really bad game, because it's not, that's anti-competitive. That's not a good game. Moving on. In order for skill dunks to even have any sort of presence in the game, you have to have either legend posterizer and poster machine takeover to get the same sort of power that you had in NBA 2K24 with your dunk. So you're paying the same price for the same game. You're paying for a bill to be less as good with more attributes required in order for it to be barely able to be just as good as something with a 94 driving dunk of last year. And on top of this, you have to build a takeover that took forever to build up. You first have to grind a takeover, then you have to actually get not 3, not 4, but 5 different levels of takeover. You have to play perfect in order to be able to get poster machine or whatever it is that you're trying to use, in order for it to actually be dominant. Well, like it was in NBA 2K24 with the 94 driving dunk. And even still, there's no point in using the skill dunks. It's better to just have the consistency of the RTX than skill dunking ever, even if you did get poster machine. So there's no reason in the game to ever use the skill version of dunking or layups. Let's talk about perimeter and interior defense. In 2K25, a 99 perimeter defense is going to give you less of a contest than a 78 vertical with a 68 block. I know because I've tested it. You will get a much stronger contest from you jumping at someone with a 68 block and a 78 vertical with no perimeter, a 25 rating on my perimeter. You will get a stronger contest than you would if you had a 99 perimeter with legend challenger and you play right stick up or right stick down defense in their face. And this is from them doing dribble moves and then also shooting off of the best jumpers in the game, because I like to give myself real world scenarios. And not only is this in a controlled environment, but also in online gameplay. I know because I have a build with a 99 perimeter. And I literally played the best defense of my life on the build. And it's all open. I have a friend who has a 99 perimeter with a 6'6" build. I was like, maybe it's the height. No, even them. You can be 7 foot. If you can make a 7-footer with a 99 perimeter, he would still get the exact same result. Because there's a problem with the way that this game is coding perimeter defense. I don't know what they have going on, but they have now made it to where you have to jump at everything, which makes right stick defense completely pointless. It has no presence. It has no weight. No one is scared of a lock. No one is scared of a lock with 99 perimeter. We're only scared of the strength rating because that puts us in contact animations, allowing for us to get steals. That's the only thing a PG has to be scared of, is your steal rating, not your perimeter, not how good you are at playing perimeter. Let's not even talk about PnR right now. We're going to move to that in just a second. So let's talk about jump contests and how it makes defense extremely noob friendly and bad for gameplay. Because if you think about it, let's say we have a scenario where the PG is at the top of the key and then the shooter is in the corner on the left side, and then you have the PG in a 5-out formation now driving to the left, heading towards where that corner player is. Instead of him actually heading to the corner, he does a dribble move where he crosses over to the right and gets by the defender that was playing him, giving himself a lane to the hoop. For example, joeknows does this all the time. You just drive, create an angle, use your crossover move to try and get by the defender so that way you can get a dunk, right? The center, or who is ever playing that corner, can now in 2K25 play that middle post, not low post, step up a little bit so where you're middle, and then move over a little bit more to where you're right in between the distance between the 3-point line and the mid-range part of that free throw line. So you're not at the free throw line, you're a little bit further in, but you're not a low post as well. We call that mid post. You can play the mid post in this game, and if the PG pass the ball to the corner, you can hit your Y button and jump at that shot from that exact same angle and get a stronger contest than you actually putting your hands on the chest, gluing them, and the PG passing it to him and him shooting that exact same shot, and you again right stick up, right stick down. That's really, really bad. And at the exact same time, if the PG were to drive into the paint and actually go for that dunk or that layup or whatever he's trying to do, you would get a much stronger contest from you jumping again at the PG than you actually following the PG and getting in front of the ball and holding right stick up or right stick down with your interior defense. Which means you're in two scenarios basically making jumping at anything really, really good, but you actually making the rotation or being skillful in the game of using right stick up or right stick down and actually making that part a gameplay core mechanic horrible. It's now a double negative because now your right stick defense has no presence interiorly or perimeter, and then at the same time you're rewarding people for jumping, but if they jump, they have to hope at the same time that if they jump at the right time, because they can jump and the jump animation could not even trigger an animation where it can even get a contest for the dunk that the PG is about to do or the layup that he's about to do. The layup or the dunk can take him completely away from the range of your Y contest, making it completely useless, or they can pump fake and take you completely out of the play and then go up again. And you can also do this for the person on the perimeter who is about to shoot the corner shot. He can just get the pass, pump fake, make the guy jump it, and now he's got another wide open shot. That's just really, really bad defense. And the reason why this is a double negative is because if he doesn't jump, he won't get a contest. That's really bad for gameplay. So, with that being said, your interior attributes in this game are completely pointless. Unless you're actually body to body in the post, because you can be in their face, right stick up or down, and you can actually go ahead and use this to stop post scores in like the post. That's the only actual presence that interior defense has. Right now, you can have a 99 interior defense, and if you go ahead and play right stick up or right stick down defense on someone in the paint and you're body to body, it can still register as open about 70% of the time, because you are technically getting moved out the way a little bit here and there. Even if you move yourself right back into positioning, even if you're right body to body, the animation's just like, if you're not in an animation that actually is sucking you two together, pause on that, you don't have any presence. It doesn't matter what your rating is. But now let's move on from that, because I spent enough time. I could spend more, but let's move on. Let's talk about steals. Let's talk about Right Stick Ripper in NBA 2K24. Right Stick Ripper was a great mechanic. I'm here to tell this to everyone because I was a competitive player, and I was honestly one of the best Right Stick Ripper locks in this whole game for NBA 2K24. I was the first person to figure out how it worked. I didn't upload 2K content at the time, but I did make a YouTube video showing you guys how it worked later on, and still people didn't know how it worked. And in that video, everyone commented, wow, I didn't know that this mechanic was this good. I didn't know that you can counter it this way and this way. I don't show you how a mechanic works, but I also show you the checks and balances to it, because I believe if you're a developer for the game, you have to put checks and balances to your stuff. You have to play test your stuff, because you have people like me who's going to test it and try and break it and see how I can make it favorable in my scenario or in the other person's scenario. And Right Stick Ripper was a perfect mechanic because it had all the checks and balances that it needed in order for it to be competitive and fair. You needed to first know which side the ball hand was in, and then you needed to know, secondly, which side you had it to swing, your hand. And then after that, you needed to also know that if they do a dribble move, you don't actually switch your angle up. You keep it into whatever their actual dominant hand was whenever they actually did their animation, and you would do it anytime between, if it was in that hand moving towards the next one, you would still do it to the hand that it was just in, which means that was something that they could have improved on, making sure you actually had to react to the hand that they're switching it to, not to the hand where the animation started in. That would have been a good thing. But instead, they could take it completely out because people complained about it, because they couldn't dribble, because they were not used to actually having to think about their dribble moves, which is, hey, I'm just sitting still with this ball in my right hand. If he flicks his stick to the left, he's going to get that steal every single time. Because Right Stick Ripper in NBA 2K24 was completely fair, because if you reach with the wrong angle, which means if you were supposed to flick left but you flicked it right, well, then you would get the reach and foul. There was a automatic check and balance. Or another one, if you didn't get the reach and foul, would be you would lose your adrenaline bar, and once you lost 3 of them, you wouldn't be able to get any more Right Stick Rippers. You wouldn't be able to get any steals, any interceptors, only bump steals. It had natural checks and balances. But the community complained about it because they did not lab. Now, to the developers, I don't blame you guys for making it worse, because you're trying to cater to, again, the casual community. But for competitive players, where is the reward? Where's the skill gap in order for us to have any sort of higher output than the people who are actually playing the game? If you watch the competitive play of right now, they are playing the exact same game, the exact same way that the casuals are. The only difference is they're still using all of the knowledge checks for rotations and offensive formations that is giving them that output. That's it. There's no difference from how they're playing the game right now. There's no skill gap. There's nothing that they have learned to abuse, or a mechanic that they have mastered that gives them any sort of skill gap over the casual community base. There's none. And the crazy thing is, right stick ripper is actually still in the game. You just have to let go of your LT button, and then it'll give you a watered down version in NBA 2K25, where you can't ever get a steal from it. I have never gotten a steal from right stick ripper, not once. I tried this over 220 times with Legend Glove and Legend Interceptor, and I could not get a single steal from me going for a right stick ripper without holding LT and doing the same mechanic, the same angles, the same logic from NBA 2K24. It was impossible. So it's a completely watered down version. And then to mine that, they replaced the mechanic whenever you hold your LT with this bounce mechanic that I said in my video for 2K24, describing why you need to basically play this sort of bounce hopping defense, so that way you can guard two angles at once. And why I also talked about the PnR defense and the PnR logic and how you can basically negate that and stuff like that. That was already in NBA 2K24, and it was a high-level mechanic that all of the comp blocks did. But instead of them actually keeping in right stick ripper and letting us control it with our LT and RT defense, no, they make it to where if you flick your right stick, now basically replacing right stick ripper, you get that same bounce animation, except it's now triggered by your right stick. But you can still do it without ever having to use your right stick. So it's completely pointless, and it's actually worse than just playing the same defense of LT RT, doing the bounce with that, because you get stunned after you do the animation, which means if you don't put them in body contact, you are completely out of the play. So it's horrible. No one's using it. And I tried even saying, well, maybe if I use it while I'm in body contact, maybe I'll get like a strong animation to stop the momentum. No, there's literally no reason for that mechanic. It's completely pointless. Now let's move on. PnR Defense. As someone who loves the PnR as an offensive player and the PnR as a defensive player, because I like playing PnR defense, I think it's very competitive. I think it has checks and balances, and I think it's based off of reads. I think it's based off of trying to beat them to the spot and all kind of other things. There's a lot that goes into that. I can watch any comp locker, any person who says they are the greatest lock in the game, and watch how they play the PnR, and I will immediately tell you that they need to listen from me or get lessons from me, and I'll teach them how to play the PnR. I love the PnR, offensively and defensively. And then 2K25, this is the first year where I am disgusted with what is going on in the PnR. Legend Pick Dodger is horrible. The animations are too good to the point to where you can't even go over or under the screen. You have to completely stand still, which is something you had to do before in order to stop it, right? Or you have to try and run around the screen or over the screen to not get hit with the animations, which means you would have to tell your backend, hey, I need you to play under, because I'm going to have to run literally over the screen and behind the PG if the screen is close enough to where you can't actually go over the screen like the sharp way where you kind of scoot over it. Go behind the PG to where you would get crap, which means you would have to communicate that with your backend in order for you to get that stop or try and take away the other side, which means you'd be going all the way around, right? That's really, really bad. And then on top of that, if you were to go under, you would have to communicate that with your backend, because he would have to basically hedge the screen and put himself completely on that side, taking away that basically any movement to the side that the screen was set at, so that way he can't go there, while the actual lock is trying to go under the screen so he doesn't ever get touched by the animation. Because once you get touched by a brick wall animation, you are out of the play for a very long time, to where the PG can get a shot up literally every single time. So PnR defense is highly in favor of the offensive player, and there is no check or balance to it except you actually completely not ever running into the screen, which means if the PG reads that you're standing still, he can just go ahead and do one dribble move and get himself far enough on the other side to where if the center is also reading that you're not running into the screen, he is now free to slip, which means the back end now has to either react to you shooting or you actually like going to the slip and they're throwing the slip, which means the PG is guaranteed to score off one hesitation move or one move that flies into the other side of the screen, because now the lock can't follow or he has to run into the screen. And the backhand now has to worry about the center slipping because the lock is not running into the screen, which means they're both not stuck in the animation, which means the center can just immediately slip. It's a quick slip at that point because he's not in an animation. They're not too stuck to where it's now a 1v1 between the backhand and whatnot, playing that sort of guessing game, right? It's horrible to watch. As someone who's very competitive in this and knowing everything about it, this is the worst year for PnR Defense. Again, making perimeter defense and the badge literally allocated for the playstyle completely useless at stopping PnR. Let's move on from that though. Let's talk about shooting. Shooting, it has always felt great in 2K25. I am not one of the people who complained about shooting. I use rhythm shooting. Rhythm shooting was something that I use because I am a competitive player. If you give me a new mechanic, I am going to use said new mechanic, right? It's actually not at all how hard it was to shoot with the X or with the rhythm shooting pre-patch. It was just the shot variance, the latency, the gathers, the hitches and animations, whether you're dribbling or idle, that makes the game inconsistent because it's an animation-based game. All of that on top of the green window moving around with your Q, which really means different speeds of your jumper, makes the game hard to shoot. Not actually the percentages. I didn't care about the RNG because I used rhythm shooting. I cared about the hitch in rhythm shooting. That was one thing I'm happy that they fixed, but they didn't need to buff shooting. It was good, but they buffed it because the people complained enough. Cool. Now after the buff, rhythm shooting with real player percentage shot timing on in an online gameplay format, because you can't have real player percentage online, you still have the time. It puts you in this mode. I don't know if it's low risk or normal, whatever it is. You can now easily shoot over 60% without worry or care of whatever shot you're taking. As long as your attribute rating is over a 75, you will be able to shoot over 60%. And if you start pushing towards the 90s and the 99 and you have all the badges like set side specialist, silky shooter, you are now going to hit 80% of your shots because it's basically real player percentage. It's just in a way to make it look like it's not, but it really is. Use rhythm shooting with normal or low, but in my case, I would tell you put on real player percentage and hop in online, whatever mode that is. That is easier than low, and that's easier than actual normal as well. So it's so easy to shoot in this game that it's actually real player percentage, and it's actually much more consistent than you shooting high risk with all of the shot variance in the game. So with that being said, you've now made a game to where you can use the thing that was supposed to bring the skill to negate all of the sort of shot variance with the X button shooting and the RNG of the X button shooting. Now basically pointless of even having it on high risk, and used for the newbie community to basically not have to time anything at all now. And then on top of this, to make it all, add up, cheaters are now using rhythm shooting to cheat. And I'm going to show you guys something that no one else knows. Not only is the people suffering from all of the changes that they made to try and negate cheaters are the only ones suffering from this now, because cheaters will always find a way to cheat, which means your best bet is to just make a good game where everyone has a pure green window unless you get contested, and then you can't make the shot at all. That's the only way to do it, which means your defense will decide if a cheater has any sort of upside, because as long as a cheater has a way to give themselves a competitive advantage or a way to have fun with cheating, they will cheat. So now the only people suffering again are people not cheating from all the changes to negate cheating, right? And cheaters are now just using the new mechanic to cheat because it gives you a 70% boost. Now let me tell you guys how the cheaters are cheating. If you have an elite controller, I have one, you can use your paddles to basically do one, input and then another input, and it'll basically automatically time your tempo to excellent for you. You just have to actually do them at the correct timing. Well, guess what? If you have a paddle input, you're basically telling the game that these two paddles are basically doing the inputs for you, which means now you can actually make a script actually sit there and do the inputs for you. Now, I can't cheat because that morally goes against my competitive spirit of wanting to compete. How can you say you a dog if you a cheater? You a fraud. You feel me? But that's just me. You can now, it only works with an Elite controller and on Xbox, but you can now actually use the fact that you can use these two paddle buttons in order to time something on a script for your Elite controller to actually go ahead and use rhythm shooting to cheat in the game, where you now can guarantee yourself an excellent with a higher chance of greening. And since the green window is so big, it doesn't matter if there's any shot variance. It doesn't even have to be a good script. You can just straight up cheat with rhythm shooting. So the very thing that they made to give you a boost is now being used to cheat. And the only people suffering now are the people who are using X button shooting, having all the shot variance, and the cheaters found a way to cheat. So now it's a triple negative in the shooting. Everything's just all wrong, and that's not good. Moving on, let's talk about the dribble engine. The dribble system gets the job done in 2K25. I am not one of those people who thought that the dribble engine was ever bad. I mastered the dribble engine in literally 2 days whenever I pre-ordered the game. Before the game even released, I already gave everyone all the dribble moves y'all now seeing everybody talk about. All of them, every last single dribble move for tall guard centers, all of that. I even still nowadays know dribble moves that no center right now is doing on a center build, and I can dribble just as good as a PG can. And I did it all in 2 days. So I was not one of the people because I'm elaborate. I actually know what I'm talking about. And the dribble system gets the job done. It's good. However, it's much worse than the 2K24's version. It's stiff, it's too committal, and there's no shiftiness in it. Like, there's really no shiftiness, and there's also no misdirection outside of like the animation of like the Tyrese Halliburton or the Trae Young. But these are animations that if you are a lot reading this stuff, you can actually get yourself a guaranteed steal off of them, because the Trae Young one it's really bad. Like, it's too slow. But let's not talk about that. But it's basically, it's stiff, it's too committal, and there's no shiftiness in it. There's no misdirection. And the only thing that you have is really just animations, and then some animation canceling with your RT, your turbo moves, like your escape moves or your escape behind it, whatever you want to call it, and then some hop jumper stuff, like, and that's pretty much it. And then you running for a little while, and then actually doing. But the thing is, if you're a competitive lock, this game is set at a specific rhythm, at a specific timing in which people can again do dribble moves. So if you know this, you can actively position yourself for the next move and always get the steal. I don't see any locks actually doing this right now, because again, I believe that most of the people who say that they good are just people who have good teammates, and they are always at the top because they have good people around them. But I don't know a single lock right now that is actually paying attention to the rhythm of dribbling this year. It's very committal, it's stiff, and it's so like one-dimensional that there's no shiftiness, there's no misdirection. There, you just have to sit there and pay attention to the rhythm. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, and everyone has to copy it because the dribble moves don't chain that well. There's no real like boom, 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 boom. You know, there's no LT cancel. There's no real thing to kind of get someone to really bite hard, and you really send yourself the other way. There's no shiftiness. There's no shake. There's no act like you're gonna go this way and then you go the other way. Nope. It is what it is, making it a much worse version of dribbling than 2K24. Now, passing. Passing is the core of what it means to play a basketball game. The animations in NBA 2K25 are so horrible that it literally is kind of comical at sometimes that a PG with a 90 or a 95 or an 89 or an 87 pass accuracy with the best pass style in the game would take this angle of a pass. It makes no sense. On top of that, interceptors being as good as they are makes passing feel absolutely no different from a 75 pass sec all the way up to a 99, to the point to where I now make all of my builds with a 75 pass act. The only difference that you will feel from a 75 pass act to a 99 would be the speed of the pass. If you could get Tyrese Halliburton pass style with a 75 pass accuracy, everyone in this game right now would be rocking with that pass accuracy. If you can get bailout on bronze with a 75 pass accuracy, everyone would be on a 75 pass accuracy right now. If you can get bronze versatile visionary on a 75 pass act right now, everyone would be on a 75 pass act. Because if it wasn't for the badge that is made to actually give you finally some sort of consistency with your pass, there would be no need to actually have any pass accuracy in this game. It's completely useless. And that's not good for your game. Now, you can actually have the animation glitch reappear for NBA 2K25. You can now see a center with Patty Mills on him. You can now see 6'9", 6'10", whatever height you want to use, but again, Patty Mills on them. That same animation glitch that was in 2K24 is now back in the game, and there's still no way to report people for it. So you can just cheat for free, and unless you're in a comp pro-am team where everyone knows everyone, or you can actually like call out to people and then kind of get them banned from it, there's no way to actually stop this, making again this game extremely kind of BS. Because now this also means that you can actively use dunks and other things, and if you have the right build, you can actively use all of this stuff to put really cheesy animations on builds that couldn't even get them in the first place. And that's really, really bad. So it is what it is. Another lesson to show you that 2K does not actually change their game. They do not actually learn from their mistakes. And the last thing that we're going to talk about in today's video is skill-based matchmaking. Skill-based matchmaking is a good idea. I always will stand behind that. And I like games that don't have any skill-based matchmaking, but I do understand the logic behind wanting to add it into your game. I can understand that, because there are some times where if I were a noob at a game, I would not want to go against a competitive person, because I legit don't play certain games because I know I'm too late to the scene. I would have to learn so much and get so good, and I don't want to go against someone who's a competitive player in that game because I wouldn't be able to compete. So I can understand it in that logic. But at the same time, 2K has found a way to make something that has make games playable for any sort of level of skill horrible. It's based on your plate, not your actual hidden MMR or your win percentage of your account every season, or just a hidden like win percentage of your account in general. So if you are a person who rage quits a lot, they should have a lower win percentage. They should have a lower MMR. Put all the people who quit and leave and then rage quitting and are bad teammates and they always losing, put them with each other. Let them have their game. I want my good teammates. But instead of it being an actual skill-based matchmaking, no, it's a plate-based matchmaking. If you are a no plate, you will get the worst teammates of your life. If you are a bronze plate, you will get the worst teammates of your life. If you're a silver plate, you might get a good teammate because you can get paired with the gold plates. If you're a gold plate, you might get a bad teammate. That's where that kind of, you gotta get stuck a little bit, but you can still find some good teammates. But the moment you go to orange plate and then purple plate, you get all the best teammates in the world. And if you can stay at purple plate, you will never get a bad teammate. So the fact that if you make a new build and you try and hop in solo wreck with that build, you ain't getting nowhere with that thing. You best play something else. You best play with some homeboys. You best hop in that LFG. Because if you try and play on your high MMR build or your high skill rating as a player, you can get paired up with bums. And that just makes no sense. I would much rather me have every single game be a competitive game, or every single game me being a sweat or whatever, than me ever playing with bums who can't make a shot or who can't whatever and don't know anything about the game. But that's just me. But the skill-based matchmaking has nothing to do with your win percentage, with your hidden MMR system. It's literally just your plate. And that makes no sense, because how many people make new builds? How many people hop on 60 overalls? That's the reason why it was going on for every event. You hop on a 60 overall with an 88 3-pointer. You hop on a 60 overall with an 83 offensive rebound and an 83 defensive rebound and a 60 overall, and you can completely make that build over and over and over again, and constantly have a god tier player with a this looks like it's a bum, this looks like it's a low MMR player, and pair them with low MMR players because they just made a new build at a 60 overall that hasn't played a game, so you automatically put them at the bottom of the barrel, basically boosting. That's really, really bad. So that is everything that I can fit in a video that I believe would be, you know, within the attention span of people wrong with NBA 2K25. My guys, it's Zuko, man. 2K25 has a lot of work to do. All of the competitive players that I know are all saying the same thing. All of my friends are saying the same thing. They have already stopped playing NBA 2K25. My own squad has stopped playing 2K25 again, and so early into the game. 2K, you done effed it up. But hopefully they can make a change. Hopefully they see this video. Izuka, man, like, comment, subscribe, man. If you want to, please leave a comment, share it with your friends so that way they can see if they agree. Let me know if you guys agree with my point of view, or if you disagree. I understand that everything I say might not be something that people would have agreed with, but that's fine. Let me know what you guys think. It's Zuka, man. We are out. Peace.